Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales of the Uncharted Territories.
I'm Cocky.
I'm Kay.
And in between episodes of our favourite science fiction programme, hey, do you like how I've sort of smoothly recreated this opening?
Yes,
until
I have.
Yeah, okay.
Until you ruined it by commenting on
I
it.
sort of brought the audience in, is what I think.
Fair.
Of our favourite show, we're reading some fanfics. And most recently, we've seen Season 4, Episode 7, Don Quixote.
Yes.
One of the weird ones.
One of the weird ones.
Yeah. And I found us another fanfic for it on Terra Firma Scapers.
Excellent.
Fantastic resource. A forum that was previously known as Kansas.
Okay.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, no, I get it.
This was, let me see. Oh, where's the title?
I can't find it. Like that's what I'm looking at.
Oh, it's in the. You've got to zoom in on the sort of heading because it's not in the body. It's called, I think, Pawp Talk. P-A-W-P.
Yes.
Talk. PG question mark.
That's interesting. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Written by AerynCrichton. Oh, yeah. I just realized. Don't scroll left. Stick to the central column of text.
Will do.
How about, okay. So just realized.
It's a good thing I never look at icons anyway. I mean.
There you go. Originally published in 2002. Oh, toward the end of 2002, I see. 28th of December. Or it's the 12th day of the 28th month.
Yeah, it's Americans for you.
Do they have 28 months?
No, of course not. Well, I mean, like November 2nd, November 2, December 2...
Those are dates.
October, Coyotober, Movember, No November,
September,
October, and we're showing our furry side here.
Okay, so AerynCrichton says, when I finished Take 2, I swore I wasn't writing anything for a while, but I watched some episodes and this idea popped up and convinced me it could be written in a short time, so I went for it. The short epilogue to Don Quixote. At least it takes place right after the end of that episode. It made me cry, but maybe the rest of you are made of stronger stuff.
Oh, no.
No, don't.
I'll get the tissues.
Think so, yeah. Thanks to Loco, Scrubs, and their husband, Jim, for beta help.
Okay, so I'm kind of worried about the spoilers because it says through Don Quixote and maybe a hint of later things with Aeryn.
Oh, God. Okay, well, I'll have the air horn ready.
Okay.
So, actually, let me see if I can actually do that. Okay, let me see if I'm just going to look on YouTube for air horn sound effect.
But then you kind of have to like switch over and press it and...
Might be worth it. Okay, well, let me see if I can... Oh, this would be really equal.
You just scream honk and then you'll edit it in later in post-processing.
Oh, yeah, I'll just do that. Okay.
All right. Written by, as you said, AerynCrichton. Ooh, that's like telling name.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. All right. The episode, it's called Pawp Talk. P-A-W-P.
No idea what to make of that. It's not a word I recognize.
No. Chiana was aimlessly prowling Moya's corridors, unsettled by the experience she and Crichton had just had with the virtual reality game she'd impulsively bought. Well, she never does anything impulsively. When she tried it out in the vendor's cluttered shop, she'd seen enough to recognise it was based on someone's twisted view of Crichton lives in the UT. And she'd thought it might be funny.
Uncharted Territories.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just reading it and then am I going to... No, I'm just going to say UT. Because everybody here knows what the UTs are. And she thought it might be funny.
Urinary tract.
Most people only have one of those. And this is definitely pluralized.
Okay, yes, fair.
And she thought it might be funny. Something to distract him from his brooding since Aaron's return. It hadn't been funny at all.
Well, it was a little bit funny.
It was a little bit funny.
The bit with Dargo and the ball dangling. And
well,
she heard footsteps when someone turned into the corridor ahead of her. The footsteps moved away from her, as if whoever it was were moving in the same direction as her, and faster. Gianna scurried up to catch up. It sounded like John, and she thought she might feel better if she apologized to him.
Just as she got close enough to him to confirm it was indeed Crichton, she saw that Aeryn was sitting in the corridor, back against the wall. Well, one guessed what she was doing. Lurking. Waiting to talk to Crichton herself. No extra points for figuring that one out. It was written all over her face. Gianna slowed to see what would happen, hoping that these two Frelnicks would begin to sort out their problems. The tension was affecting everyone on Moya, and not in a good way.
Gianna thought the expression on Aeryn's face was as close to casual as the XPK could make it. As John came abreast and past her, she said, I hear I was a princess, giving the human an opening. The hopeful note in her voice broke Chiana's heart, but apparently it didn't move Crichton, because although he paused briefly, he never even turned around, walking off without a word.
Frell. Chiana wouldn't go so far as to say Erin's face fell, but the Spacian was obviously disappointed. After a few microts' thought, she scrambled to her feet and headed down the corridor in Chiana's direction, her long strides taking her past the Nibari before Chiana could even think to say anything.
Well, Frelling Dren. Talking to Crichton when she wouldn't even talk to Aeryn didn't seem like such a good idea anymore. Maybe Aeryn? At least she could find out where Aeryn was headed so fast, especially since, listening to the echoing footsteps, Aeryn seemed to be picking up speed.
Chiana scurried after the Spacian. She practically had to run close the distance between them.
"Hey, Aeryn," she called when she was within hailing distance.
Aeryn stopped, stiff-backed and tense. "What?" she asked without turning around.
Chiana paused for a moment, feeling the apprehension in that one word. She cocked her head and said, as brightly as she could, "Where are you going in such a rush?"
Aeryn slowly turned her whole body around. Her mouth twitched, and then she said, "To the hangar."
"To the hangar," Chiana replied, a catch in her voice.
"To my prowler."
"Ah, Frell. You don't need to do that," Chiana told her. "Crichton..."
Aeryn cut her off sharply. "Crichton would be better off if I weren't here."
"You don't felling mean that. You can't mean that. You have to know him better than that. You loved the other one," Chiana said, words tumbling over each other in her haste. Oh, wow.
Aeryn turned her head sideways and regarded Chiana for a microt or two. Then, to Chiana's horror, Aeryn's strength dissolved and she began to cry.
"Oh no, feelings!" Frell. Chiana hadn't seen Aeryn cry even once since she'd returned from her time on Talon. She didn't think anyone had, except maybe Crichton. Maybe. And she knew Aeryn would be horribly embarrassed if anyone saw her, standing in the corridor, sobbing. On the other hand, XPK or not, she probably needed to cry, considering how things seemed to be with her and Crichton.
Chiana looked desperately up and down the corridor and saw with relief that they were near a storeroom. "Come on," she said, taking Aeryn firmly by the hand and starting to drag her in that direction.
Aeryn allowed herself to be led, which made Chiana even more uneasy. The storeroom was full of crates, and she pushed Aeryn down to sit on the nearest of them, and then scurried over to close the door. When she turned around again, Aeryn had wrapped her arms around herself, perhaps for comfort, perhaps to keep Chiana from getting too close. But tears still streamed down her face, and she made no attempts to hide them. She looked at Chiana as often as she looked at the wall.
Chiana crossed her own arms and leaned against the opposite wall and just watched her, letting her sympathy show, but never closing the gap between the two of them. She wasn't sure how much Aeryn would tolerate, and the last thing she wanted to do was cross the line. For all she knew, Aeryn blamed all of her current problems with Crichton on her, because of the fiasco with the baby news.
"Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is really cool." Finally, Aeryn took a huge breath, wiped her face, and shook her head. She nodded in the direction of the closed door and said quietly, "Thank you."
Chiana, relieved, leaned her head sideways and studied Aeryn for a micro, then asked, "Want to talk about it?"
Aeryn sniffed and cleared her throat and took a deep breath. "You saw?"
Chiana nodded. "Yeah, I saw."
Aeryn shook her head again. "That wasn't the first time." She shrugged to minimize her complaint. "I don't even know what the problem is. Not really." She took another breath. "I know that by leaving him, I hurt him very badly. I wish I hadn't had to do it."
"But you were in a lot of pain, and you couldn't figure out what you wanted with him right there, pressuring you."
Aeryn's eyes widened a little in surprise, as do mine.
Chiana smiled and told her, "I bet even Crichton knows that, even he won't admit it."
Aeryn looked off at the ceiling and then back at Chiana, who'd moved a little closer to her. "I know I shouldn't have told him about the pregnancy. I even know it hurts him that I can't tell..." "I know I should have told him about the pregnancy. I even know it hurts him that I can't tell him where I've been."
Chiana waited impatiently for Aeryn to get where she was going.
But I don't know why he won't listen to me. He said he doesn't trust me with his heart, but how can I make it right if he won't listen to me? He listened to me on Talon," she said, dropping her hands in her lap.
Chiana waited again, this time for Aeryn to hear what she'd really said.
Aeryn's eyes glittered, and she shook her head. "I know this isn't the same man, Chiana, but it is John Crichton. Why won't he listen to me? Why won't he tell me what's really bothering him? I know he was angry, and he has a right to be angry. I've done a lot that hurt him, but I thought..." She looked at the ceiling again and laughed hollowly. I thought if I were patient, if I gave him time to calm down, the way he always gave me time, we could talk.
Chiana shrugged. If it makes you feel any better, I thought he would too. He's been desperate to find you the whole time since Raj and I found him on Elac. I don't know what he's got up his ema that's making him act such a dranit, and now that you're actually here in front of him.
Your Chiana voice is fucking great, dude.
Well, thank you.
I really like it.
I finally found her.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got this sort of vocal fry going on. It's really doing it for me. Aeryn rubbed her arms absently and chewed her lip, apparently thinking.
Well, what was he like? Chiana asked abruptly.
Who?
The Crichton on Talon, the Nabari said, regretting it the instant the words were out of her mouth, when Aeryn gave her the beginning of a look. But since she couldn't call the words back, she plunged on, asking a question she'd wanted the answer to for a cycle. Was he like this one?
Aeryn's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't flinch. Yes and no, she said. At the time, he was just John. Just the man I'd been falling in love with for 3 cycles.
Ooh.
Yeah. The man who loved me. She bit her lip again. We were really happy, Chiana. He was the same man he'd always been, the same man this Crichton used to be, but he was happy. Even with all the terrible things that happened, we were together and he was happy. Her voice faltered on the word happy, and the tears spilled over again. Even when he died.
This time, Chiana crossed the space between them and laid a comforting hand on Aeryn's arm while she cried.
Aeryn pulled herself together fairly quickly and managed a weak smile. I'm sorry, she said. The past is the past. Usually I'm okay.
Chiana nodded and then said, Look, I'm going to ask you something I don't want you to get mad at me for, huh?
Puzzled, Aeryn nodded.
If the other Crichton hadn't died, would you have given a frell about this one?
Whoa! Oh my God. I mean, I know it's not a spoiler, but... Wow! What's the use of asking that, Chiana? He did die. The Crichton who is here, I do love him. Either we have a future together or we don't. And just now, that seems to be entirely in his hands.
Do you want to?
Yes.
Then what are you going to do about it?
Aeryn took a deep breath and then sighed heavily. Oh. Whatever it takes, she said simply.
Whatever it takes?
Yes.
Chiana's grin lit the room. You're not giving up, are you? It was a statement, not a question.
Not unless he tells me to. And makes me believe he truly means it. Oh, yeah! The determination in her face suggested it would take an awful lot to convince her of that.
Chiana shook her head in admiration. You've changed a lot.
Yeah, this sounds like she's gone full Crichton.
Yeah.
Aeryn smiled wistfully. I had John Crichton in my life. I'd be a fool to turn my back on a second chance.
Well, if there's anything I can do to help you knock some sense into his head.
No! No, Chiana, no! Aeryn, no! Do this on your own. If it was a matter of knocking heads, I think I could handle that, Aeryn said with a straight face.
Well, I'm not so good with relationships either, Chiana admitted.
Fucking wow! Aeryn snorted and stood... No, that's not fair. She was great at relationships. She just had some insecurities. We all have those. Aeryn snorted and stood up, signaling that the conversation was over. Thank you for the pop talk, she said.
Chiana frowned at her. Pop talk?
Aeryn smiled. It means encouragement. It's English. At least I think it is.
Chiana's smile widened. Drat! You know some?
John was teaching me. He always liked it when I tried. Maybe this one will too. I'm studying. Aeryn reached out and opened the door.
The owl can reach you even in the uncharted territories.
The what?
The owl. Duolingo, you know.
Yes.
You've been neglecting your studies. We can find you even though you've gone through a wormhole.
Thank you for today's lesson. We'll see you very soon.
Good luck, Chiana said, and then she stopped, just as Aeryn started out the door. When Aeryn stopped to see what she had paused, Chiana said, You weren't really thinking of leaving Moya when I caught you in the corridor, were you?
Aeryn tossed her hair and laughed. No, I was just going to my prowler to think. It's quiet and I don't have to think about where anything is when I'm sitting in the cockpit.
You could have told me that, Chiana said, instead of freaking me out.
Aeryn laid a hand briefly on Chiana's cheek. I'm glad I didn't. I really was very upset, and you helped. Thank you.
Touched more than she could ever express, Chiana bobbed from one foot to the other and said only, You're welcome.
Oh, people being honest about their feelings and appreciate each other.
This is not Starman. This is not.
I know. This is why it's a fanfic.
Yeah.
This is where we imagine like the really weird stuff, like people just being honest about their feelings and appreciate each other.
That doesn't make for good TV, though. That's like.
I know, but it's being like. It's even rarer than weird sex stuff, which
Fair.
they do manage to sneak in.
Yes. Oh, God. Like, now I suddenly got flashbacks of Rigel in bondage gear.
Oh, Zan.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the chief that keeps on giving. Aeryn acknowledged the comment with a smile, then turned and walked away.
Chiana watched her go and found she felt better than she had in a while. As much as some part of her wanted John Crichton for herself, she was a realist. And the realist knew that his heart would always belong to Aeryn's son, even if he and Aeryn weren't together. Aww. Knowing that Aeryn was determined to fight to get him back gave Chiana hope that the man would be happy again one day.
Oh. Now, should she try to find Crichton and apologise for buying that Frelling game?
Nah, you'd get over it.
So after giving the advice to just talk to him, no, she's not going to take her own advice.
She's still a little brat, and that's why we love her.
Oh, Chiana, this was... Oh, it's like this was written for me. Thank you so much, AerynCrichton. You know how I feel about like girl talk on Farscape.
Oh yes,
right.
Yes.
And yes, I know the Bechdel thing, and that they were talking about a dude, but it was about her feelings and like helping each other through complicated feelings.
Totally.
God. I recently saw a picture on the internet. Yes, welcome to the segment where Kaki and Kate tell each other.
That's our previous podcast, but yes.
A picture that they saw on the internet, and it was a picture of someone's dog sitting very mournfully in like a sort of plastic sort of crate. Ah, yes. And here's a picture of Flame. Apparently, the dog's name was Flame. Yeah. A picture of Flame in her feelings box. See, it's very hard to be a dog.
Ah, yes. Well, you know,
I sort of relate to that. Like, I wish I had a feelings box where you could just sit and have feelings.
Dogs always wear their hearts on their sleeves, so.
And their slobber on your sleeves.
Well, yes. It depends a little bit from dog to dog, but...
Love you with mouth. I think the phrase is.
Yes, although not exclusive to dogs, that is.
No, of course.
I mean, that's like animals, like, you know, they want to interact with you. They, like, you know, sometimes you get a pause.
One utensil.
Yes, but the mouth is generally best.
The sort of front bit with the nose and the mouth and the eyes and all of it.
Although there's like lots of I love it when like pets have been taught to give high fives and stuff like that, or double high fives even.
Oh yeah, and you can always see that sort of look in the eyes that sort of says, "Well, this is a weird thing to be into, but it makes them happy, so I guess."
I mean, there's this thing with a lot of zoo animals are trained a lot better than they're led on to be, mainly because they want them to be able to respond. They perform certain, let's call them tricks for sake of argument, mainly for like inspection reasons, like they get them to perform and stuff so they can look at their paws or their stomach, or in case of, I know for a female red panda was trained to just basically stand up and put her front paws on sort of a T-shaped thing, just so they could do a ultrasound echo to her stomach.
Assume the position. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've had occasion to visit with some dolphins in a dolphin sanctuary, who like they participated in training, but the trainers they were very specific about only positive reinforcement, no negative reinforcement, and if they don't fucking feel like it, then they don't do it.
Yep.
And the whole sort of focus was on like making it into like a sport and an entertainment for these animals, because they're curious and they like to do stuff with each other.
Yeah. There's also this great video, like again talking about things we saw on the internet, of an otter being like having their temperature taken, which is basically like nose up, they get a little push up on the nose, and then they open their mouth and they use an infrared thermometer to like take their temperature at the back of their throat.
Oh, that's really good.
It's a really adorable pose too.
Because you got your soft palate there, which like is basically like a
brain temperature.
Yeah. That's a really good way to scan.
Anyway, thank you for joining us for another episode of Tales of the Uncharted Territories
and the various tangents.
And we shall see you next week for episode 408. Or is it?
Yeah, did we say what that was? We probably said what that was in the last episode.
This one, yes, we definitely did say that.
You can tell that we're not living in the future now, can't you? Anyway, bye-bye.
Zwei.
That's the button right there.
Oh, sorry. Right. I'll push the button then.
Told you it was fun.
Yes.